with the Julian calendar versus the Gregorian calendar difference in our churches, the characteristic difference is that there is 13 days difference between those two, and we can call the Julian calendar the old calendar, and the Gregorian calendar the new calendar. Old style for Julian calendar, new style for Gregorian calendar. And a point to know is that the Gregorian calendar is the calendar that most European governments have been using since the 17th and 18th centuries, something like that. For example, the British Empire switched to the Gregorian calendar in 1751 by an Act of Parliament. That meant that on a certain Monday of 1751, the Act of Parliament declared that that Monday is going to be reckoned according to the Gregorian calendar, and forget about the 13 days difference. It's just gone. So the churches and their different jurisdictions based on ethnic people. So the Slavic peoples generally maintain the use of the Julian calendar. Maybe some Mediterranean churches, the Greeks, Constantinople, the Antiochians perhaps, maybe some Romanians. In the 1920s, Constantinople switched to the Gregorian calendar, and that means that in a Greek parish, we might be using the Gregorian calendar, but just down the road, the church that the Russian people might be using could be using the Julian calendar, and there would be, when we celebrate the same feast, actually there'd be the Greeks would be doing it 13 sunrises and sunsets before the Russians would be doing that feast. Now, the best way to describe it is that a date and a feast do coincide by name. For example, say the 25th of March, the Annunciation to the Virgin would be happening by the Greeks on the 25th of March. That would also coincide with the state's 25th of March, the secular state. However, if the parish were using the Julian calendar for its church services, they would also say it's on the 25th of March, but their 25th of March from the church's point of view would occur 13 sunrises and sunsets away from whatever the state said was the 25th of March at that time. Right. A point to remember is that 9 months after the Annunciation, we have the Nativity of the Lord. So for those people on the Gregorian calendar, of course, by way of example, they would celebrate that Nativity of the Lord on that same day that the state would have the Christmas holiday, 25th of December, whereas a church that was using the Julian calendar would also say they're celebrating the Nativity of the Lord on the 25th of December, according to the Julian calendar, but that would be 13 sunrises and sunsets away from when the Greeks did it and the state declared that public holiday, what they call the Christmas holiday. So these dates of these feasts, and actually every day of every month is a feast day of a minor saint or a great feast like the Nativity of the Lord or the Annunciation. But the point is that every single day there will be some saints commemorated by the church that are fixed for those days, and our books for those are we call it the Manion. There'll be a volume for every single month of the year, and that would have all of the hymns, the special hymns for those saints for every day of the month and for every month of the year. So I will be talking about the service books. So the Menaion, Menia, gives us the word mensural or monthly, and that's the cycle of the monthly cycle of saints in the year. So anyway, that we've just been speaking about one calendar issue, and that's the Gregorian calendar versus the Julian calendar, and this affects those dates of the feasts in the Menaion. But there's another church problem to do with the calendar, and it's a separate problem from the problem of the Julian calendar versus the Gregorian calendar. And this problem is, how do you calculate the date for Easter? So yep, you can search for good ways to describe that, and one simple way, not so simple, but to calculate Pascha, it is astronomical. That you would calculate a number of factors. You would calculate the lunar cycle, which is, I think, 19 years, and you'd combine that with the solar cycle of 28 years, and your Pascha should not occur before the equinox of spring, and it should occur on the first Sunday after the first full moon, after Passover, that feast. So the Judaizing feast of Passover should be after that, and that's how you would calculate it. That explains why the date of Pascha always varies from year to year, because of its dependence on those cycles, the lunar cycle, the solar cycle, the seasonal thing, the vernal equinox, the spring equinox should be after that, and after that feast of Passover, the first Sunday after the full moon, after that feast. So the calculation astronomically, even if you do it with scientific, your best astronomical instruments and your best technology now, or even just with your best astronomical knowledge, is the way to calculate Pascha. So what happened to it? Why is there a problem about Pascha? Well, I think it's somewhere that the Roman Catholics can explain when they invented their tables that aren't based on astronomy, just a set of convenient tables to calculate Pascha for their own use. So somewhere along the way, in whatever century that was, the Roman Catholic Church had its own separate way of calculating Pascha, according to some tables which I understand are not contingent upon astronomy. So what about the state? When does the state grant what they call Easter holidays? I think they would have followed. So Northern European states would have followed either whatever the calculation the Catholic Church or the Reformation churches would have done. Now there is an idea that is mooted just to decide to celebrate Easter just on a certain day of the year according to the state's calendar, which would match the Gregorian calendar, and that would absolutely arbitrarily dismiss all of those factors, those astronomical factors, the solar cycle, the lunar cycle, that consideration about the spring equinox or the first full moon after the celebration of Passover. So that would be, in my opinion, a bit of a problem to do that. Now, this year, 2024, this celebration of Pascha is very, 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 very late. It's May the 5th. I think May the 8th is the latest that might happen. And and that is far, far different from how the state is calculating the public holiday called Easter this year. Now, okay, that's enough of that. Now, there are other calculations for the services of the church, and they go in a strata. There are about 4 layers, and they go in a strata of hierarchy, and at the top, absolutely, the Paschal cycle, wherever Pascha sits, determines and takes precedence over other cycles that I'll get onto a moment. So that would mean that whenever that would mean that the second level of calculating our church services would be a musical one. So our musical has eight modes or tones, and they are calculated according to Pascha. So the first week of Pascha, using the first mode. Second week after Pascha, second mode. When you get through all of those 8, after 8 weeks, start again. On the 9th week, you'll go back to using the first mode. Now, those modes are, it's the Orthodox, in Slavic, the Parakleti in Greek, and it has the hymns and chants for all of the services on every day of the week, and just set to music that matches the Greek texts in terms of accent and rise and fall and meter. And while the basic conceptual ideas are the same from tone to tone to tone, it would be the actual words and the musical meter and the musical shape that would vary. So those are the two uppermost layers of calculating what hymns you're going to be using at any day in the church. And the Paschal cycle determines the musical cycle of those 8 tones. Now, come down to the Menaion again, and this is the monthly cycle. And here at the level of the monthly cycle, you're going to get dates like 25th of March for the Annunciation to the Theotokos, the 25th of December, 9 months later, for the birth of the Lord. Now, the chanter and the church and its services will have to kind of jiggle and incorporate those 3 books, and there is a bit of a hierarchy, so you would have to kind of have all of those 3 books open, more or less, and know which ones to admit, because which took priority. There are some more books here that also are affected by Pascha, just as the Octoekos is, and these would be the book, the Pentecostarion, which kicks in from Pascha up until the date of Pentecost. But before Pascha, the people call that fasting period Lent. So the great time of the Great Fast, there's a service book that will start to replace some of the services in the from the Menaion or the Octoekos with they call it the Triodion, 3 odes. Some of the services start to have sets of odes of 3, hence the name Triodion. But you can see that, just like the Octoekos, they're affected by Pascha. Now, there's even a 4th layer down, which often people don't quite get to, but it it is important, and that's the weekly cycle of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Don't count Sunday. Sunday's always just resurrectional. It's not a weekday. And the church dedicates Monday to the memory of the archangels, and Tuesday to St. John the Baptist and Forerunner, the prophet. Wednesday to the cross and to the Mother of God, and Thursday to St. Nicholas and to all the apostles, and Friday to the cross again, and Saturday again to the Mother of God and to all saints. And there are sets of hymns dedicated to all of those saints, angels, for on all of those days. Now, often they get, because they're at the lowest level of hierarchy, the three above that often take precedence over that, and you might not get to those levels. But if you didn't have these upper books, it's always there as a default, for example. So I said that Wednesday and Friday are dedicated to the cross, and that explains why those days are strict fasting days for lay people, because it's very penitential, because it's in honour of the cross of our Lord. And monastics include Monday as a strict fasting day as well, along with Wednesday and Friday, because Monday is, as I said, dedicated to the angels, and the monastic life is meant to be like an angelic life. And yeah, that explains why monks will fast on Mondays as well as Wednesdays and Fridays, whereas lay people will fast on Wednesdays and Fridays generally. So that's it. That explains a lot of the differences between the different calendar issues. And so I'll just recap. Principally, there are two issues. One is the Gregorian calendar versus the Julian calendar. That's one issue. The other issue is the calculation of Easter. And yes, so thank you for listening.